Hey guys, Real 2K Insider here, and we're going to be breaking down Jeremy Sochan's ratings and badges in this video. Jeremy Sochan is the new starting point guard for the San Antonio Spurs, and that's going to create a pretty large dilemma for 2K gamers this year, as with the overall rating formula for point guards, it's way different than it is for power forwards. So, just to demonstrate, we're going to change Sohan's position. At center, he's a 77. Power forward, 78. Small forward, his highest rated position, 80. Shooting guard, back down to 78. And then point guard, woof, -3 down to 75. So, a lot of this is because, the skills that a point guard traditionally uh, look for are not really what you find in a power forward. We're going to break down all that down as I go over each individual attribute. But let's bounce around a little bit. I'm going to be going in order on the from the attributes menu, but I will be bouncing around via the quick edit menu just so you can see the effects that all of these attributes have on his overall rating. So today, starting off with driving layup, we're going to give that a -10 to a 70. Per basketball reference, Sohan was 85 of 180 from the field on layups, which is good for 47%. Assisted on 58% of those, and he took 4.4 field goal attempts per 36 minutes. Anytime I say 4.4 or anything like that, per 36 is what I'm going off of. So just so I don't have to say per 36 for the entire duration of the video. And I would basically make that a base of 65, and then based on his shot creation and volume metrics, I would then boost that up to a 70. 47% from the field is not a good field goal percentage on layups. Traditionally, power forwards are going to be around like 60%. So Sohan was one of the more inefficient players in the NBA last year. Obviously, it's a new year, so he is a player who is going to be on my watch list, but this is where I'm going to have his starting point. That's basically how I treat my ratings is uh, how you ended the season is where you're going to start off from, and then based on your progression in the following season is when I'm going to start bumping you up. I try not to make too many projections because there are lots of players who you would expect to get better, like for example Scotty Barnes, another player who compares pretty favorably to what the Spurs are doing with Sohan this year. He really didn't improve much last year, so you can't really, you could pencil in improvement, but it's not something that's concrete, set in stone, or anything. So 70 layup for Sohan to start off with. Going over to his post stuff, point 0.4 fadeaways and then 0.7 hook shots. So I'm going to boost this to a 60, and then the hook shot to a 65. 1.5 post touches. I'm going to boost this to a 70. So he's not really a like go-to scorer or anything in the post. He can post up. It's in the bag. But really, this is just so if he has a mismatch, he will actually post players up. That might be one of the reasons why the Spurs are willing to utilize him at point guard. Is he'll have a mismatch against smaller players and be able to utilize his passing to pass over them. I saw the highlights, but I didn't watch the full game of Sohan at point guard to really get a good idea of how he is at like initiating the offense and whatnot, and where he's comfortable passing from. But that'll come with time over the rest of the season. And obviously, there isn't a ton to also derive specifically from preseason. But draw foul, we're going to do -14. 210 0.210 free throw rate, so 21% free throw rate, I guess is the better way to call that. Basically, free throw attempts versus field goal attempts, and pretty not great for a power forward. I'd say this is a below average mark. Close shot, 2K pretty much has usually close mid-range 3-point. There's going to be not going to be a ton of discrepancy between the two of us. It depends on how much they haven't factored shot creation and how much they're going off the percentage. But from close range, which I determine as 3 to 15 feet, 2K can be a little sketchy on sometimes they count it as 3 to 10. and they count mid-range as like 10 to 15 and 16 to 23. In this case, it would appear to mostly be our numbers mostly line up. Close shot 81 of 201 per Basketball Reference, 40% from the field, 56% assist rate, and then 5.0 field goal attempts. So the five field goal attempts per 36 is pretty solid volume. So we give him a little bit of a boost to an 82. Mid-range, 11 of 29 from the field, 38% from the field, 64% assist rate, and then 0.7 field goal attempts per 36. Obviously, the mid-range shot is not a major part of anybody's offense. Few players take more than one field goal attempts per 36 minutes, which might play into why 2K now considers 10 to 15 footers to be mid-range. However, I don't because Shaq was taking shots from 10 to 15 feet. Those are hook shots and distance, etc. And I don't consider those mid-range shots. Those are short, close-range shots. Or the close shot is really like the short mid-range, and the mid-range rating itself is the long mid-range. So, which is dictated by their own hot zones and tendencies and everything. So, anyway, let's give a +4 to Sochan here. 68 3-point shot is what I'm going to give him. A -7. I'm not even sure why he's so high at a 75. 33 at a 134. 25% from the field. That is very low. In general, especially for the 75 3-point rating. I'm not sure what that's about. He was assisted on all of those shots, 100%, and then 3.3 field goal attempts, which is below average volume. Obviously, that is below average shot creation. So basically a base of 70 and then docking him 2 points to make it a 68. Could go even lower, really, to like a 67. I anticipate this is something that's going to be better, but this is also another reason why he makes a little more sense at a point guard, as you would want if you want anybody to not be spacing the floor, you either want it to be your center or your point guard, a la Ben Simmons. Because even at the 4, you just want, obviously they've got Wemby at the 4 now, and they decided to go with the size of Sochan over Trey Jones, and obviously Trey Jones isn't the greatest 3-point shooter either. So, yeah, I've got that down to a 68, but keep an eye on it. But yeah, Sochan's not a great shooter. He shoots free throws one-handed. He was 80 of 116 last year, 70%. He switched to his one-handed shot. It did go his free throw. I believe he shot like 75 or 76% on free throws. So this is something that could technically go up. But 116 free throws also not the biggest sample either. So we'll see. Then let's hop on over to ball handle. Only a 67, but I've got this pretty underrated to start the year. 2.5 pick and rolls and 0.5 isolations. So he's creating a fair amount. Like 2.5 pick and roll for a power forward is actually pretty up there. Not a lot of power forwards create in the pick and roll. They're usually on the other side. They're usually the one who's in the roll or playing off ball. Waiting for a pass from the point guard and center's pick and roll action. So we're gonna give that a +8. Pass vision, we're gonna boost that +6. 13.6 assist percentage last year. Solid for a power forward. If he is gonna be playing point guard, this is something that should probably trickle up a little bit, maybe to like the 16% range. Pass IQ, solid passer. If his assist rate goes up, I'll probably boost this as well. Pass accuracy, and for what it's worth, 70 is like an average player, so 75, we've got him at an above average IQ and passes. Pass accuracy, 1.46 assist to turnover ratio. Offensive rebounding. Usually the rebound rates are pretty solid for 2K. 6.9 offensive rebound percentage. Basically, I round up and they don't, which is why we got a +1 there. Driving dunk, we're we're going to boost this 10 points to a 90. Sochan was 60 of 70 from the field on dunks, 86% from the field, which is about the league average. Assisted on 67% of those, and the most important factor is 1.7 field goal attempts per 36 minutes. For a power forward, that is pretty solid. And I did watch some tape on Sochan's dunks. He does do a fair amount of standing dunks. He is a pretty reasonable lob threat. I'm curious to see how the switch to point guard from power forward is going to affect things. But yeah, I felt like this is a pretty reasonable ratings for him, especially, and it does help counterbalance that he has a low layup rating. And worth noting, he hit 60 dunks last year and 85 layups, and he took 111 more layups. So he definitely wants to dunk more than try to finish. Shot IQ, he's got a 90. Sochan had a 51 true shooting on a 20 usage rate. He was one of the least efficient players in the NBA last season. I'm going to drop this down to a 65. They do this with players like Russell Westbrook, etc., who have like the 65 is being generous. I feel Westbrook would usually have this kind of true shooting on a 30 usage rate where it's at least justifiable because he's taking difficult shots. But Sochan is mostly getting role player touches. His best shooting area was the close range, and his inability to finish efficiently is, I guess, what drags him down a little bit. But just better shot selection would certainly help, and I don't see a reason to give him a 90 on par with Wemby or Vassell. I'm sure Keldon Johnson's also a much smarter player offensively than him. And hands, we're going to give plus 10. I don't really know why they've got him that low to begin with. 80 is basically the average for a player. So we've basically dropped, going over all the offensive attributes, we've dropped Sochan down to a 73, which is not great. Not great so far. But again, looking at where he rates at the other positions, we've barely scratched him as far as his power forward rating goes. He's only dropped 1 point. It just looks so much worse because he's at point guard. Diving in a little bit on his synergy stats, since we just did all of his offensive ratings, really the only place that Sochan was efficient was on basket cuts, 1.44 points per possessions, 80th percentile in the NBA. And then in transition, which were 18% of his possessions, 0.94 points per possession, 16, but that was only 16th percentile. Yeah, not good finishing. 9% on his putback, 9% putbacks, 1.14 points per possession, 53rd percentile. So those are the three main places he gets his offense. He also 27% of his shots are spot ups, but not a good shooter. 0.87 points per possession, 20th percentile. So they clearly, I think they just want to cut down on his spot ups and maybe help him get out in transition. Maybe he's able to do that easier with the ball in his hands. We'll see. I'm not sure if taking him away from the basket is going to help with his putback production and whatnot. It's going to be curious. This is an experiment. I don't know how this is really going to go. This is why it's so fascinating. Defensive attributes. Defensive rebounding, as per usual, is fine. 65, 15.6 defensive rebound percentage. Interior defense, we're going to boost this 5 points to a 70. Sochan's a fine defender. +1 for his perimeter defense. And those are two areas to keep an eye on this year. Generally, rookies aren't, the greatest defensively. The Spurs were historically bad defensively last year, but I don't think a lot of that was Sochan's fault. I think, just a lot of, what the Spurs were doing. They were pretty clearly tanking, not playing their best five at all times. So, and I think that Pop in particular didn't want guys gambling for like steals and blocks or anything. They just wanted them to stick with their man. which I think actually ends up being like a negative defensively. Like you're instituting defensive fundamentals first and then allowing them room to roam later. So, uh, I do think that that probably hurt the Spurs' defensive numbers overall, and that's probably an area where Sochan will be able to improve. It's 48. Give him a 48 block rating, 1.3 block percentage. That probably could go up, especially at point guard, matched up with smaller players. And then 1.4 steal percentage. And this is what I mean with the gambling, because this is actually a strength of Sohan is getting into passing lanes, but he didn't do it very often. But I would look for it to be a little more frequent this season. Athleticism, 2K kind of screwed the pooch on his athleticism. He's one of the more athletic guys in the NBA for his position. So let's do a +6 to quickness, +10 to speed, +5 to his acceleration because he's not like blowing by anybody. He's just fast in like transition. Because he's point guard, we are gonna give a +15 here, and also didn't have a notable difference in his like speed on and off the ball, to be honest. And that actually helped his rating out a little bit. Strength, this is gonna be a +5. Vertical +11. Stamina, only an 80. He played 26 minutes per game as a starter. I anticipate that number's probably going to go up a bit. I don't know if he's going to average 30 minutes per game this year. I guess that a lot of that depends on how effective he is, but I would expect like 28 minutes a game for him approximately. So 85 stamina, hustle rating, 80 is about average. I would anticipate this going up to like an 85 this season. I used deflections 2.2 per 36 to. I have a scale for that, and it works pretty well league wide. Durability, which is not on this screen. Sohan only played 56 out of possible 82 games, 68%. So we're going to drop that down to a 70. But obviously, a healthy season, given that he's only played 1 year, will drastically change that. Mental stuff. These are all over the fucking place. Offensive consistency, 90. Ho boy. Sohan had a negative 2.8 offensive box plus minus, which is the metric I use for this rating. He had a 51 true shooting on 20 usage percent. Where the fuck are they getting 90 from? Wemby 70, lol. This is yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna have Sohan at a 45, right on par with Sandro Mamakhalashvili, which didn't affect his overall rating at all. That's a plus. And then his defensive consistency was a -1.2 defensive box plus minus. Again, the Spurs were the worst defensive team in the league last season. So, I anticipate that this rating will go up for Sohan. It's more likely to go up for this than it is for the offensive version of that, just because I anticipate the Spurs are going to be a lot better. Sohan at point guard might be a big part of that, and Wemby is going to be the most important part of that. Also, health for Devin Vassell is going to go a long way. And then past perception, we're going to ratchet that down to a 65 until Sohan gets better steals numbers. And help defense, we're going to go +11 here. He's a pretty good help defender. And then intangibles. Oh man. So normally I would have Sohan at an 80 because he's a starting level NBA player. 2K starting him off at a 95. Things were already off to begin with. They will play with intangibles to get guys rated higher or lower. And we can see here Got him down to a 76. 77 still the highest, but only a 73 at point guard. This is no bueno if we're going to be changing his position. So very obviously, we need to max his intangibles to get him the highest possible rating. Um, and certainly they did other things to fluff his rating a little bit. Like I dropped the shot IQ, that had a pretty significant effect. Yeah, that was basically worth 2 points on its own. So it's something to keep an eye on that if you disagree with the changes that I made, or we might have to finagle things later on. So let's dive in on the badges, and we see overall rating wise, oof, he's got a lower overall rating than Charles Bassey. Yeah, not that the Spurs have the greatest ratings in the world, but clearly we want Sochan to have a higher rating than these four guys. So let's dive in on the badges, shall we? Also, archetype high flyer, which has changed from inside out threat. I would not consider Sochan an inside out threat, given that he's not an outside threat. So high flyer, playing into the fact that he's mostly a dunker at this stage of his career. Let's dive into the badges. He has one big driver, big fucking whoop. The badges for the Spurs are absolutely horrendous. I've previously done a video on Victor, which I've since modified a little bit. In my roster, Victor has 30 badges. 2K's got 6 for him. I need to edit Devin Vassell still. He only has 4 badges, only 7 for Keldon Johnson. Like everybody on the Spurs, I think they have fewer badges total than LeBron James has overall. Let me just double check that, because I didn't put it in my notes for this video, but I'm pretty sure that's accurate. Yeah, the Spurs have 44 total badges on the 2K Sports roster, which is fucking pathetic. And LeBron James has 46. Yeah, so we need to work on Sochan and the entirety of this team. I probably will do a full video on the Spurs at some point in the season, as they are, I think, on most people's like League Pass watch list. Like, they should be one of the more fun teams. Obviously, Wemby is going to probably the most interesting player to watch this season. And we are going to go in on this menu for the badges themselves, as finding them on the quick edit menu is a fucking nightmare. So we won't be doing that. We're going to be focusing down each our attribute type. All right, so aerial wizard, 0.5 alley oops per 36 minutes. Pretty solid for a power forward. Generally, centers are usually going to be your big time lob threats, but you know, Sochan's still able to do it, and obviously has that 90 dunk rating, 70 standing dunk rating. So we're going to give him a silver here. I opted not to give him any post-up badges because he wasn't particularly efficient scoring in any of those touches. He did create his shot, but make a shot is something else entirely. And the only badge we're going to give him is a posterizer, just to reflect that, you know, he is a dunker. I wouldn't give him precision dunker. None of his dunks are really like super creative or anything. Outside scoring, we're going to give him catch and shoot, just because he does take catch and shoot jumpers, and that's literally it. I wouldn't give him Claymore or anything else. And then Midi Magician, we're also going to give him, just reflecting on his mid-range scoring wasn't totally embarrassing. I believe he took 1.1 pull-ups and step-backs per 36 minutes, which is enough for a bronze from me. And then going over to playmaking, he's already got the big driver. We're going to throw break starter, and we'll throw post playmaker on him. I'm not sure if that one's going to hold based on how he's going to be utilized at point guard. But yeah, all of these could be getting reviewed, stuff like Dimer, etc., depending on how successful this point guard stint goes. Um, I would opt against giving him physical handles so at the moment based on what I saw, but it's probably another candidate. Kind of goes in hand with like big driver, but everything else kind of wait and see. And then defense, this is where most of his badges are going to be. And he has none, of course, with 2K. So we're going to give him Bronze Challenger, Interceptor, Off-Ball Pest. We're going to give Silver Pogo Stick, Silver Workhorse. This is a player who's been compared to Dennis Rodman, and he doesn't have a hustle badge, which is kind of wild. And then 94 feet, which is the rating that allows you to full court press somebody. That's another reason why Sochan's going to be a point guard, I'd imagine. And then a silver to rebound chaser, because again, at point guard, he's going to put together some pretty solid rebound numbers, I think. So you're going to want him, because he's going to be out on the perimeter, you'll want him to, he has to go a further range in order to get those rebounds. So, and that brings us to 75 overall. Kind of right back where we started. Yeah, 78 at power forward. So this is going to be the tricky thing, is the point guard position. If they make that that swap, let me just switch his secondary from here to power forward, and let's see what happens when we do that. Yeah, he still doesn't start. So you would need to force non-starter, probably Trey Jones and Devontae Graham, in order to make that happen. But yeah, that's what we got so far for Jeremy Sochan. He's definitely a player on my watch list, as for all the reasons I went over in this video, which probably ran on long enough. So let's end it here. And if you like this video, follow, like, subscribe, all that jazz. Check out the Patreon, and I will see you guys later throughout the season. Peace.